Welcome everybody to Sheev's PvP school. Before we start, there's a few things you must know. There's no way you can be taught to win every fight in Eve Echoes. But of course there's a way to fight and be able to get out if you need. Most of the time. But you can't PvP without basic knowledge and trial and errors. And to be a great PvPer in Eve Echoes, you need to know some advanced stuff as well. And I will go over all of this in this video the best way I can. I will also try to explain some expert stuff, cause who is an expert if not me, huh? I'm just kidding, not really. Or am I? So sit down and make sure you get like 20 minutes of your time to get the value of many years of PvP into your ear canals. And YouTube do make chapters nowadays, so hopefully you see 3 or 4 chapters if you would like to skip ahead. But don't do that! You like me, don't you? And you might also miss stuff. I will make sure of that. So let's start. I would call this part beginner. Let's first go over the pure PvP items. Scramblers are short-range modules that prevent other ships from warping away from you, and they also shut down micro-warp drives. Disruptors, on the other hand, are longer-range modules that prevent ships from warping away, but nothing more. Webifiers are modules that slows a ship down. Using more of the same enhances the effects, but on many modules you will get penalized for using more than one. And Webifiers is one of them. So the second Webifier do not slow down the ship as much as the first one, but you still get quite a good speed reduction. Nosferatus are only for your own capacitator, and it steals cap from another ship, but only if that ship got more capacity than you have at that specific time. Neutralizer are to steal cap from another ship, but not giving it to you, and it also takes from you as well, but not as much. So basically, if you have a lot of capacity on your ship, this is a good thing to use to break other people's tank. Now there is a ton of modules like jammers, tracking disruptors, painters and more in the Eve universe, and I can make another video if you want to talk about every items in the game. I'm not sure if that is what you guys want, but for this video, this is what you need to know. So you're thinking of doing PvP. You can say that there are 3 fundamental ways to build your ship. You got tank, you got damage, and you got speed. No matter how you build, these factors are what matters to be killed or to kill. And however you decide to do, you cannot have all 3. It's hard even to get 2. So you need to decide to build for one type. And that extra you got over, you can put into a secondary thing. Now remember, we are talking about PvP here and not strictly solo PvP. This is a general PvP video. And yes, this can be messy, but this is the only way to give you as much information possible in a short video as possible. So how do you decide what type of ship to build? Well, I would say it's what you want to fly or what you like to fly the most. Are you into flying fast with damage? Or are you into crashing gate camp with a great tank and some damage? Or are you into trolling people with speed and a crazy tank? There's of course other stuff to specialize in, but this is a few of the main ones. This is what you need to think about. If you don't know really what you want to fly, or you don't have any idea what you will meet, then I would say go tank and damage. This lets you survive longer and learn more from the fight. Because losing a fight in the beginning is something that we all did, but the difference from great PvPers today and those who quit is that some of us took the time to learn after every death. We improved with time, and we tried until we found out even how to think. And I will talk about that later too in the video. But back to the point. If you know what you might fight, then you could in theory fit a ship that can counter the enemy. Some ships have bonuses that can counter some major things in a fight. For example, the Phantasm, it got bonus to Afterburner. And this makes that ship go extremely fast, without having to think about the scrambler issue. And without that issue, you can be quite safe at 16 kilometers. You still will get wrecked if you're closer than 14 due to the webbers, which will kill your speed. This way of thinking is very important in PvP. You need to know your range, both offense and defense, as well as the enemy's range. But when you're fitting your ship, you only really know your own range. So let's go with that for now. So the number one, your damage output is very, very important. At all costs, stay in your weapon range. This is for all except missiles. And we will talk about missile too, but let's just talk about guns for now. The more accurate your range is, the better you will hit your target. Every gun have an optimal and a fall off. If the optimal is 10k and your fall off is 4k, you will hit between 14 and 6k. Outside that range, you will severely reduce your damage. Then you also have something called tracking speed. This is a bit harder to figure out, but the higher the better. There is no magic number here. But the slower an enemy is moving, the less your guns have to track. Less tracking equals better hits. So let's talk about missiles. Because missiles are different. They don't have a range. Well, they do, but they do instead have a flight time. If the enemy is not hit by that time, the missile will just disappear. Missiles also rely on explosion velocity and explosion radius. Imagine the missiles is exploding at 100 meters per second, but the enemy is flying faster. Then the damage from that hit will not catch up to the ship. So it's important to slow down fast ships. The other thing is explosion radius, and people have an issue with this one, but I will try to explain it. If you're standing under a bomb, you for sure will die, right? But you won't get the whole bomb damage. And this is the idea in the EVE universe. If the missile does 10,000 damage over a big area and you are very small, you only take your size in damage. So the smaller radius, the better. If you're hitting a station, in the other hand, most damage will be calculated. Okay, so now you know your range. A tip is to try to focus on the bonuses that the ships have. It's not mandatory, and it can in some situations be clever not to focus on the bonuses. But to get the most out of your ship, try to. Take a look at your ship and, for example, does it have more armor or shield as a base? This can give an edge and give you more armor if you tank the correct type. And here I will give you an example for when you should not go for what the ship prefer. If you know that you will fight an Anomalies ship, for example, you might want to go armor tank, even though the ship might prefer shield, since lasers do more damage to shields. So that is just a basic idea. Now, when you have decided what to tank, then always have at least one adaptive resistance, sometimes two, but never use a yellow. Yellows are for PvE or very specific roles in PvP. That's all I'm saying. And if you're going speed, you want a micro-warp drive or an afterburner or both. And for damage, of course, use some damage modules for the corresponding weapon types. Fitting a ship can be very hard for new players. Try to ask for fits. That is always a good start, because I cannot give you all the types of fits here. So we will now focus on how to use the ship and where. Remember that skills are good in this game, but you only need them to fly and use the ships. More skills do not automatically make you win fights. So where to fight? There are 2 places to fight in EVE Echoes. Well, there's 3 if you count local, and 4 if you count market, and 5 if you count faction warfare, and never mind. Lowsec and nullsec is where I'm going for. Lowsec is the area only guarded by gate guns, so the popos will not be there for you or against you. So in theory, if you can tank the gate guns, you can fight at the gate. But you can't, so reasonably, at least. So areas to fight is on planets, suns, and of course belts and anomalies. So it's very normal that people get scanned down doing high-sec missions in low-sec. But scanning down people will gimp you with giving you 1 less mid slot to play with, due to the scanner that you need. It's normal that small fleets have a tackler, and this is a specific player in a smaller ship that will sacrifice his mid slot to do this task. Upon arriving to the target that you have scanned down or found, the tackler, in that case, is webbing and scrambling that target until the damaged fleet warps in to take him out. Call it unfair, but that's the name of the game. Another very common thing that people do is check the open anomalies if there is missing some. This can mean that people are farming right now, and then it's just a matter of warping between anomalies just to find them. The other area to PvP is of course Lowsec. This is the red dots on the map. Here there is no protection from Eve Echo's government at all. It's only protected by other players, and here you can fight anywhere. So at station and at gates or in belts, it's all nice areas to PvP. So now when you know this, let's talk about what to do when the fight starts. If you're able to try to figure out what type of ship and possibly the fit he might run, have this in the back of your head, because you might want to counter this at some point during the fight. First of all, you activate your resistances. Always activate Scrambler and Webber as soon as you are in range. If you do this too early, they might just stay inactive, so always keep an eye on your Scrambler and Webber. After that you activate your guns. And this is of course unless you're in a sniping ship, then of course you activate your guns first. Always make sure that you get your optimal towards the other player during the fight. As soon as you can, you must try to figure out, will you win this fight? This can be very hard to see due to many reasons, but if you feel he's going down before you, then just keep it up. If you get a feeling you can't win, you need to, as soon as possible, decide between two options. Either find a way to abort the mission, or find a way to disrupt the opponent's success. This can be either by changing your range, closer or further away. Try to move sideways manually to make his gun have harder time to hit you. If it's a drone boat that you're fighting, take out the drones to remove the DPS from you. Whatever you feel that you must do, you must find this solution as soon as you can. And this is the edge that very good PvPers have today. They can see this very early. And this is why doing a lot of PvP will make you see these opportunities faster. If there is no opportunity, then trying to get out is another thing. It almost never works unless you build a ship with speed that has disengagement in mind. Now how do you get an edge over other players? You could use different fittings, oversized modules, unorthodox playstyle, you can do pre-scouting, you can set traps, you can study the enemy for a longer time, you can have a bigger fleet than the enemy, you can do gate games, you can do docking games, you can log out and log back in at a better timing. It's all strategies that people use to get the advantages that they need. Find your way to surprise your enemies, or maybe use a ship that got bonuses to large guns, but you use smaller instead just to destroy a frigate camp. They will not see that coming. The idea around this topic is endless, and even if I was to state like 10 more ways, there is always more. Also, being aware of how the enemy think is a great way to prepare and decide when to fight. For example, how do you react when enemies enter your nullsec? What do your people do? Try to think about that and of course use that to your advantage. I will give you an example. When I roam in nullsec solo, I always keep track on who I'm passing, who is there, and if I recognize someone that I've seen earlier, I can think that maybe something's up. How far away is his base? How much time do I have before a battleship can arrive? Or if I am at the enemy's home system, I know that they have told people that I'm there. They have broadcasted my name. They might not have started hunting me, but their talk have started, right? And the big reason might be that they don't know where to look. So if I'm going to a gate, wherein the system next to it has even more people, I know that if I'm jumping through that, people will tell them that I used that gate. So I will have to have a plan for where my enemies will arrive and when, and what I must do to have the best opportunity to stay alive. We all do this in our own way, so a good way is to watch people's PvP videos, study them, and also doing PvP yourself. Even if you die, it's important to do PvP yourself. Even if you don't learn stuff from every death, you do get something. You get nerves. You might feel that your body's cramping up every time you start locking someone. That feeling can be a problem for you. The panic, being unsure on what to do, all those things blocks all your rational thoughts. By using cheap ships and buying a lot of that and PvPing a lot, that feeling will diminish and it will not cost you much. If you start in PvP, go out and die with small ships, get into fights not to win but to get control of that feeling. This was all I had for my starting PvP, So I would say go out and do some PvP and you will see that you get the hang of it quite quick. And those nerfs will disappear. And I will see you again.